Welcome back to Lessons in Attachment. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 signs you had an emotionally immature parent. And I'm also going to discuss some of the impact that will have on you as an adult, what it can show up and look like in your relationships today. And there'll also be some gems given, some insight on what you can do to start to change this, to change the impact that it's having on you today, so that you can experience more emotionally mature relationships. So I really want you to listen to this whilst feeling quite compassionate towards yourself. And I want you to know that if it is triggering or you do notice any, like frustration, anger coming up, that's really normal, but just meet that with curiosity. The reality is, over inside the Attachment Recovery Gym, I have run or had guest experts in to talk about the mother wound. We've had discussions around difficult relationships with parents, and I've actually got a guest expert coming in to talk to us about self-worth and how our self-worth is impacted when you've grown up with emotionally immature parents. And this is a topic that I just feel like across insecure attachment, not just anxious attachment, across insecure attachment, this is a topic that can be really common. So as I read through these signs, like I say, just to reiterate, to be kind to yourself, be understanding, and most importantly, just know that you are absolutely not on your own, because the community inside the Attachment Recovery Gym, so many people in there relate to this as well. So just keep that in mind. Have the wisdom to know that this is not just your experience. Another reason I want to talk about this is because this is often one of the reasons why you're attracted to people that are emotionally unavailable or emotionally immature. It's one of the reasons why you might struggle to spot the signs, because it's almost like this is your norm. These kind of behaviors, these kind of patterns, this is the love, the relationships that you know. So for me to read these and for you to be able to recognize them is the start of you breaking free from this, from breaking this cycle, so that you can see that you don't need to be attracted to this. This doesn't need to be your normal. As I read these, you might not just be like, hold on, that's not just my parents or one of my parents. It doesn't have to be biological parents. It can be main caregivers, people that took care of you when you were younger. And you may well find you're describing my partner, you're describing the kind of people that I attract. And that's really normal, because our caregivers, the relationship that we had there, that is often kind of the basis for our adult relationships. One sign of having emotionally immature parents or a parent is that you are very quick to sense a change in someone. You sense that there has been a shift, a tone in voice, a change in their mood, facial expressions. And not only that, but you will be very quick to see this as a negative. So let's say the person you like is quieter than usual. The person that you like, just, I don't know, you sense something different. You will sense that very, very quickly. You'll feel that anxiety quicker than someone else. And this is really a form of protection. This is you, when you were younger, having to be on the lookout, because parents that are emotionally immature, they're quite unpredictable. So your way of protecting yourself was to have to be really aware of these shifts, these changes. And it got to the point where, you're not doing that intentionally. It's just there. So, that question of how do I stop doing that? It's not necessarily that you can become unaware. And listen, sometimes it's useful, but many times as an adult in new relationships, it's not accurate information, and you need more information before you can really decide what's going on. So for example, if someone's facial expression has changed, we might need more information before we decide what that means. We might need to have conversations. We might need to let things play out. But that's what you can really struggle with to do as an adult, because you couldn't do that as a child. So almost immediately you're sensing changes in other people, and that can be detrimental for you when you act on that, when you feed into that, when you think about it too much. The next sign is that feelings can be really confusing and overwhelming for you. You struggle to make sense of your reactions, you struggle to make sense of what you're feeling, and for you to understand that can be really difficult. So to verbalize that to someone else, it can be really, really hard. And that might mean that you don't verbalize it to other people. It could mean that when you try to verbalize it, it comes out kind of not how you mean it or not making much sense, which of course in a relationship that can create more confusion, that can create a bit more of a dynamic that's not always helpful. But again, it makes sense because if your caregiver is emotionally immature, this will be what you witnessed. You wouldn't have witnessed or experienced someone being able to successfully self-soothe and work through their own emotions. So they certainly weren't able to pass that skill on to you. So as an adult, we still lack that skill. That's what I really love about this kind of work. That's what I love about attachment coaching, is that we can finally start to build and work on the skills that we have lacked over the years. The third sign is that you actively suppress your needs, your emotions, and what's on your mind. You might physically freeze, or you might make a conscious choice that it is best for you to just suppress these things rather than to share them. And that's usually because in some form or another, you're actually quite afraid of the consequences. To share these things has become a risk for you. You've learned in some capacity that it isn't best for you to share your emotions, to share, what your needs are. And growing up around emotionally immature parents, when you did do that, it's very possible that you experience being shut down, you experience criticism, you experience being told off, or much, much worse. And so, of course, as an adult, I'm just going to suppress that. I'm just not going to let that out. Very similar to that, not being able to self-soothe. This is another skill that we have to teach ourselves, recognizing as adults that this is different people in front of us, that if we do get shut down or criticized, we can make different decisions than we did as children. We don't depend on people, or certainly don't need to depend on people the same way that children need to depend on people. And so it's starting to have that confidence to not need to suppress these things anymore. But, if you do, it's a possible sign of emotionally immature parents. Next is that you prioritize other people's needs and happiness above your own. So other people's feelings, other people's experiences, that kind of gets more of a priority in your mind than your own needs, experiences, and just your own well-being. You might find that you actually can't stand the thought of another person being sad, of another person being worried or being angry or being hungry, something about them. You feel like you need to meet their need more than your own. And again, this is often because that was kind of the pattern that played out when you were younger. Perhaps you had the parent role, you were the therapist, you were the one that had to be there to make this person feel better. Or you took on the belief that you're the reason that things weren't okay, you're the reason that they were angry, you're the reason that they were sad. And so now you're on this life mission to make sure the people that you love are okay, that the people that you love, that you can fix, that you can make everything perfect for them. And of course, that's such a huge job. It's not that possible. And as adults, we really need to be taking care of that ourselves as well. So it's for you to be able to trust that the person that you care about, or the person that you like, that they are not your parent, that they are able to take care of their feelings, that they're able to make decisions for themselves, that they can problem solve for themselves. And of course, if they can't do that, then that's for you to consider the kind of relationship that you want to be in, especially if you are still attracting people that are emotionally immature. Because like I said at the beginning, that's often what we see. Is if you grow up around this is the kind of people that you become friends with, that you get attracted to, that you get into some kind of dynamic with. And the fifth and final sign that I'm going to share today, of course, there's many, but we're just talking through these five. The fifth one that I see quite a lot come up is this inability for you to play, have fun, and connect with joy. You tend to be someone instead that is planning, that is worrying, that is very, very serious, and that is overthinking, unless it's an attempt to people please, unless it's an attempt to make someone else happy. You might well be covering that up, and yes, there's kind of this like playful manner, but that is coming from this place of anxiety to make the other person happy. It's not necessarily truly fulfilling you. And again, it makes sense if you think about your past experiences, how you grew up around someone being emotionally immature, and you might find that there was very little space for play and joy and that kind of connection. You would have needed that. Children need that. But if you're around someone who's emotionally immature, they may not have the capacity to have made that happen or to see the importance of that. They're the five signs that I'm sharing today. You may be questioning, well, what do I do about that? Look at the signs, and really you're going to see straight away how you can work on yourself to not be so impacted by this as an adult. It's going to be things like, well, what if actually you did put your needs first? What if you did make some space for play? What if you went kind of against these ingrained patterns and you let yourself be more of who you are? You want to really consider, if I had the kind of upbringing or been around someone that was emotionally mature, who would I be? How would that have helped me? What would I be doing today that I'm not doing now? Ask yourself these questions. Now, when it comes to repairing our attachment wounds, this is often a huge part of the therapy that goes on. Really allowing yourself to heal and grieve those past relationships, because you would have lost out. You would have not had the opportunities that maybe other people do when parents are more mature, more emotionally available. That itself can be quite painful to come to terms with. So if you're doing that with a therapist, if you're doing that with a coach, that can be a really safe place to explore this. Like I say, over in the Attachment Recovery Gym, we have a couple of guest experts that have come in to explore this topic, this really sensitive topic. So if you're a member, if you literally search in the search bar in the hub, mother wound or emotionally unavailable parents, you're going to be shown some resources around this. Hopefully you have found this episode useful. Do come and follow me on Instagram, carly.ann_. I am regularly sharing content to help you move from anxious towards secure. If you go to the description, you will see details for the Attachment Recovery Gym as well as some free resources. And I will see you back here soon.